Entering the atmosphere in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by Doominal Crossing. Doom, what's going on? How are you?
Godzilla -1.
Oh,
holy crap.
Yeah, man.
What a movie.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Honestly, my first thoughts after seeing that was, man, I am disappointed I didn't see this in theaters, because that is such an incredibly powerful film. And, you know, I've been like a casual Godzilla fan before, you know. I really loved, you know, Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee on the GameCube. But, you know, I've never been like huge into the series. But
I agree.
Man, this is a movie, regardless how much of a fan you are of, like, you know, not just Godzilla, but even kaiju fans in general, it is a beautiful character piece with a lot of things to say. And it just happens to be a really killer Godzilla film on top of that. Weirdly has a lot of Jaws you know, kind of throwbacks in the first half, which I love as a Jaws fan. And yeah, I legit do not have a single critique of this film. It is absolute perfection.
This movie was
it's on Netflix right.
Awesome. Like
it's so good.
I'll take it a step further than you actually. Like I wouldn't even say like I'm a big Godzilla fan. Like I almost every Godzilla movie I've seen, I've been like, like the 1997 or 9 or whatever one with Matthew Broderick, I was just kind of like, and then the new one with Bryan Cranston for like 6 seconds, I was like, this sucks. And so my buddy was just like, you got to come see Godzilla -1 with me. So it was playing in one theater in Calgary, so we're like, all right. So we went to go see it. This movie blew my socks off. I think it was the best movie I saw last year. Like, it was awesome. It was so good.
I definitely, and I was telling you, man, I think it might be up there for me. I don't know quite if it tops Across the Spider-Verse for me or John Wick 4, but man, it is up there, man. It is, like genuinely, like I would never use the word beautiful to describe a Godzilla film in any other context, but this film truly is beautiful. And, you know, if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix right now. I cannot recommend it enough. It is an absolute must-see.
And you know the thing about Godzilla -1 is it was cheap. And like cheap to make. And I don't know, when I say cheap, it looks awesome. But like this is a blockbuster that is, it's just like, it's what a movie should be. It was like, it was, there's no bloat, there's no big expensive marketing budget. It looks awesome. It's like, it looks way better than like $1 billion or like a, I don't know, $300 million movie budget, like for a lot of Marvel movies. It looks like incredible, and it was awesome. If you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. Yeah, I'm happy that you got to finally see it. And I think a lot of people missed the theatrical release. So like that is one that you should definitely check, even if you hate Godzilla, because like yes, it's a Godzilla movie, but it's more of like a human story movie, you know.
Which I know sounds bad for a Godzilla. You're like, oh, who cares about the human character? No, this is like actually like honestly, like just remove Godzilla from the picture. It's just genuinely like a beautiful story.
Yeah. That
like has a lot of social commentary to say about, you know, both Western and Eastern influence on post World War II. And it's just it's incredibly powerful. Like again, like words that I never thought I would use to describe a Godzilla film, but it really does. It really just go above and beyond, and it is that good.
I heard it was dubbed on Netflix too, so if you don't like subtitles,
yes,
that's that's for you.
Yes, we watched the dub version. Yes, that's the version I recommend personally.
I saw the sub version,
the sub version.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was
I really like the. I think if I have a choice in animation, I'll take dub, but in live action, I'll take sub, just because like. There's something off-putting, but like when the character's mouth is moving, but the words don't quite line up. So yeah, I thought it was awesome. You should check it out. You know what else I thought was awesome, Doom?
We were talking about it last week, I believe.
Furiosa. That episode is live today. I procrastinated a little bit. I said I was gonna get it out last week, but Dang it! That episode is out right now. A new episode of the Spateri's review. We had a fun time. We were talking about Furiosa, talking about the box office of the movie, we were talking about modern movies, we're talking about Jack Sparrow. Lots of good stuff on the new episode of the Spateri's review. You can hear how Samantha almost soiled herself in the first 5 minutes of the movie. There's a jump scare in there that I think I saw. You know, in like that Smash trailer where Simon Belmont, like the Grim Reaper took Luigi's soul and Simon Belmont had to like fight him back. Pretty much the same thing happened with Samantha. Her soul was being abducted. And I was like, put it back. And yeah, it was a great time. It was a great show. So that is out. Wherever you get your podcast, go like and subscribe and check that out. And you know what? We should also wish all of our fellow hunters out there a happy Pride Month. It is June it's June the 2nd now. It's June 1st was yesterday, but it's Pride Month. So you are seen, you are loved, and you are welcome on this show. And yeah, it's good. It's a great month. The summer's here, and well, we are, of course, back to talk about some Metroid. We got a Nintendo Direct coming this month at some point. I have to imagine it's coming when I'm on vacation. So, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to be calling into you, Doom, from Central Park or something like that in New York. We'll try and put something together. But we got a Nintendo Direct. If there is ever going to be Metroid, you know, it might be here. So maybe we don't have to wait for that much longer. Like, I think this Nintendo Direct is now or never for Metroid Prime 4 if it's going to be on the Switch. Like, only on the Switch. Hopefully it's never, yes, but it's going to be now or never. So we won't have to wait long to find out. So that's coming pretty quickly. But you know what else is coming pretty quickly? The 3-year anniversary of the tweet that well, not even a tweet, a proclamation that I made in our Discord channel. And that proclamation was, Samus Returns will be on Nintendo Switch before summer of 2024, I think is what I said. And that's coming up pretty quickly, which is apropos, because today we are here to talk about Samus Returns. We are bringing back our game-specific Q&A, which, I mean, you know me, I really love Q&A episodes, but sometimes they can get a little bit bogged down with, you know, similar questions. So I found that doing a game-specific Q&A is really fun and kind of gives you more different questions that you might never really think of asking or answering beforehand. So we got a lot to talk about today about Samus Returns, and I'm pretty familiar with Samus Returns right now because I've spent all day and all last weekend kind of going over and playing Samus Returns and doing some other stuff that we'll reveal at a later date. So I'm ready to rock and roll here. We got a lot of good stuff, and I'm excited to talk about Samus Returns.
Into Samus Returns, one quick little Metroid tidbit that we should probably cover, and I'm gonna say this on the podcast right now, so that when it's released, I have to commit to it. But by the time you folks are watching this, our Metroid Prime guide that has been extensively delayed is finally going to be out.
It's live.
I don't know exactly the date it's going to be, but by the time you're watching this on Tuesday, it is going to be out. And yeah, I'm so excited to finally have this released. It was a lot of hard work, but really fun to write. And then I really appreciated, you know, all the contributions you made as well, Andy, and really making this the best possible thing that it could absolutely be. And yeah, I'm just really proud of the work that we put into this.
Yeah, you did an awesome job, and 95% was you, and the 5% that sucks, you can blame it on me. So yeah, you know, to be honest, it's live right now, so like you won't have a hard time finding it. We just haven't told the masses yet. So I mean, this is kind of our you know, here it is. If you know, the thing that I always say about these guides that we do is like, it's just a different way to experience the Metroid games, and it's a fun way. There's a lot of personality in your guide, a lot of personality in mine. It's just like a different kind of fun thing to do, and you know what, we've had a lot of newcomers as well to the series, as Metroid has been expanding in the last couple of years. So hey, if you're into Metroid Prime and you need a hand with it, go check out Doom's guide. It's awesome. It's posted on OmegaMetroid.com right now. It'll take you from start to finish, and we're talking 100% missiles, scans, everything. So go check it out.
Even the Ice Shrike bats.
Man, I have to admit, actually, when Prime Remastered came out, I did not get 100% run, and they were why.
Every time it's either them. You know, it's actually funny because I think I was saying it when we were doing our first episode after it came out. But I managed to get 100% scans on my first try, but I had trouble getting 100% items because I believe it was the Research Lab Hydra missile, the one where you have to blast the column with the super missile after the power goes out. And it took me so long to like retrace my steps and find it because I was looking at all the items and I'm like, what do you mean? I got all these. I should have 100%. And so that that wasn't
so funny.
fun. Haven't made that same mistake since then. That is burned into my brain now to never miss that Hydra missile. But yes,
you know, I can picture where that tank is in my head right now. I've never missed it, but it's funny because like I have an expansion like that in this game too, and it's one of the like the earliest ones that you can get in the game. It's in the Chozo ruins, and it's just a morph ball tunnel, but it's kind of hidden. Like you wouldn't see it. You got to roll through it. It's just like a regular old missile, but it took me like forever to get this expansion. I could not remember where it was. I think in the guide I had it as like missile expansion 49, and you put it to like missile expansion number 7 because that's how early you can get it in the game.
Are you talking about the one in Burn Dome after you get the bombs?
I don't think it's that. I think it might be. It's in Chozo ruins, and it's just a regular. Like, it's a small hidden morph ball tunnel. I think it's in a room that takes you right to the Chozo Plaza. Don't quote me on that, though. But I'll try and find it exactly.
So I think the one just after right before the training chamber, the one with, like, the hidden bushes?
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking of?
That's it.
Yes. That honestly, to be fair, that one's an easy one to miss. That one's, like, really well hidden.
Just made an absolute mockery out of me. Nevertheless, though, yeah, don't do what we did. You can use this guide to get easy missiles, easy scans, easy everything, even some really great quick kill strategies for the bosses there. So make sure that you check that out. Let's get to some of these questions for Metroid Samus Returns. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
All right, I love it. Let's rock and roll. This is from our pal Tony at Lower Legend. Why is Surface of SR388 such a bop, and do you prefer the adventurous tone of this tune in Return of Samus in AM2R, or the more atmospheric tone of Samus Returns versions? Well, first and foremost, I remember one of our, like, our longest running bits here on this podcast is like one of our very earliest episodes. Dak and I did an episode where we were talking about the most iconic tracks in the series or whatever. And I was like, I think that the Surface theme is an iconic track, and he disagreed. So every single time that I can now, I call it an iconic track. So it's one of my favorite tracks in the series, actually. Like, I don't think that there's a bad version of it. Like, if I had to pick, I'd probably single out. I'd probably single out the Samus Returns version as my favorite, but I like all three versions. AM2R, even Return of Samus, like the sprite version sounds awesome. Like it still holds up. It sounds incredible. I think like this is just a track that never misses. Like no matter what, and AM2R has some like really kind of cool remixes that of this track as well. Like that you get later in the game where it's a little bit more darker and ambient and stuff like that, which also sounds awesome. It's called the Afternoon Theme. It's just an awesome track. Like I don't know what I mean. That's more of an observation than an answer to your question. But it's just like an awesome track. It's one of my favorite in the series, and dang it, I think it's an iconic track in this Metroid business.
Well, first off, objectively speaking, it is not iconic. It's an incredible track. It's one of my personal favorites in the entire series, easily in my top 10. I think it's a wonderful piece of music, and I think within hardcore fans, you'll see that brought up, but like to me an iconic track has to span beyond the fandom, and absolutely nobody beyond the Metroid fandom knows what the hell Surface of SR388 is. You could go to like Red Brinstar, NES Brinstar, the title theme, or maybe like the save station or the item pickup theme. Ridley is a good one, but the Surface of SR388, it's just not that. Doesn't diminish its quality. Again, I think it's personally one of the best tracks in the series, but that saying iconic and saying really good are two completely different things. They're not mutually exclusive. That's how I see it, at least.
I don't. But care anyways, what back you to say. It's an iconic track.
But anyways, back to the actual question. So I agree. I definitely, of the two, I prefer the Samus Returns version, but there isn't really a bad version of this theme that I've heard. Even fan arrangements outside of AM2R, I've always really enjoyed. But I think what makes the Samus Returns one work so well is because of the cues that it specifically takes from the original. Because as much as I love AM2R and even a lot of the fan arrangements that I have heard, they're always missing something that I feel like is key to that original, and that's like kind of the grittiness of that original of that chip tune, and none of the new instrumentation of those fan arrangements I really ever felt like captured kind of the grindiness of like that those original chip tune instruments. Whereas Samus Returns, I think they found a way to do it, but in a way where it doesn't feel goofy and out of place. It still feels like naturalistic to the environment and the game world. And I never really heard a new version to fully capture what made that Game Boy original so ingrained in my head the way that it does. And then you layer on the choirs started by Kenji Yamamoto, which have now been like a very prominent theme, used throughout the series, and then a lot of other tricks and whatnot. And then I think you put it together, and I still don't know if I would call it my personal favorite, because man, I still love that Game Boy original. But I think I'm very comfortable with calling it the definitive version of that theme.
I think so. Yeah, like it's just an awesome theme. Like I don't know. Like, I'm not the music guy, but like, it's just, I really haven't heard a bad. And in fact, while I was working on some Samus Returns stuff earlier today, I had a version of this song, of this theme playing that I want to track down, and I don't know where it's from. But if you've ever Googled like Metroid lo-fi, there's something that'll come up where it's like relaxing Metroid music with rain sounds. It's set to that. You could just YouTube it and you'd find it like right away. And at about the 52-minute mark, there's this just awesome version of the Surface theme, and it's got like a different vibe. It's got like soft guitars. It sounds really great. I don't know if it's from. Part of me wants to say it must be from like Harmony of a Hunter or something, like one of those albums, because I can't find anything that is online. Nobody knew in the comments where it was from, but it just sounded like awesome. So like it's just a classic track that almost every single version that you've heard of it really delivers. So yeah, I'm justice for the Surface theme. I'm glad that we kicked off this episode talking about this iconic track. So great question, Tony. Thank you for that. Let's move on. This is from Metroid Theorist. And here we go. If you were in charge of deciding the Aeion ability names and their functions, and if you weren't satisfied with the scan pulse, what different Aeion ability would you have made, and what would you have called it? I feel like I'm pretty sad. I don't know. I think that the Aeion abilities are pretty cool. Like the lightning armor. I mean, that sounds awesome, right? Like I think that sounds great.
Here's what I would change. I think Metroid Dread made I did have some issues with the scan pulse. Dread pretty much fixed all the issues that I had with it, so I would just kind of use the scan pulse like Dread did, and I would also push it out maybe a little bit later into the game, like maybe the second or the third Aeion ability you'd get. The only ability that I actually think is disappointing is the phase shift, and the obvious answer there is replace it with the speed booster. Yeah. So I don't know what Aeion ability I'd replace it with. Yeah,
like I feel like yes, is the phase shift inferior to the speed booster? Yeah, no doubt. But I feel like for what it's going for, it's still like a pretty cool ability. It's like the opposite version of the speed boost, and I think that that's interesting, and I think it was an idea worth exploring. So I think that that's cool. I think the beam burst is cool. I don't know. I kind of dig actually all of the Aeion abilities, and we have a couple more questions about Aeion abilities, so I don't want to like go too long-winded here for fear of overlapping. But like with the scan pulse in particular, I feel like I'm fine actually with the way that it works. And now that I'm actually thinking about it, I can't remember what the difference between it and the Dread version of the scan pulse is.
So in Dread, it doesn't fill out new sections of your map. It just highlights the breakable blocks in the area, and then it also lasts a little bit longer than it does in Samus Returns as well, which I don't mind at all, because I mean otherwise you're just going to be shooting and bombing blocks anyways. It's just something that speeds up the process a little bit. And then again, because you collect it later in the game, it also forces you to naturally hone those abilities as well. Whereas Samus Returns, you get it like right at the beginning, and it feels like a crutch almost. At least for me personally.
Yeah,
I agree.
I could see that.
I agree though with the beam burst. I'm actually kind of disappointed it didn't return in Dread. I would love to see that again. It was so awesome.
Here's what, yeah, the beam burst was awesome. Here's what I would say if I were to, like, I think the scan pulse is actually fine and in this game, and I think it's fine in Dread. Maybe what I would replace it with, though, and tweak it is a better word, not replace. I would maybe put in the X-ray pulse, where like you activate your X-ray pulse, and it's almost like the phase shift. Like when you have the phase shift activated, everything slows down. Instead of everything slowing down, maybe it's just like you have X-ray vision, and your whole screen is now X-rayed, and like those breakable blocks constantly glow. So like you were saying, like the blocks stop glowing after maybe about 10 seconds or so. So maybe when you've activated your X-ray scope or whatever you're going to call it, everything just stays highlighted for as long as you have it on. Of course, you're going to be using Aeion while this is on, but I think that's like a perfectly fine substitute without kind of revealing too much of the, like the extra areas, I guess, so to speak.
I think we're talking about something similar to this on another Q&A, and I proposed an idea that I think you and Dak both really like, where it's like, what if you had like something like an X-ray or a thermal visor from the Prime games, but it functioned kind of like in Super Metroid, where instead of covering your whole screen, it's more like a narrow cone, but then you could use the 360 aim to like move that narrow cone like all around the screen, which I thought cool. Could have been an interesting idea. Yeah,
that would be cool too. I think now that I say it, I kind of like the idea of like your whole screen rather than like having to stop and then move it. But like I honestly, either are fine, and I don't really have a problem with the way that the scan pulse was implemented in the game. That being said, either. So, excellent question though. Let's move on. This is from Harky Man. Hell, have we missed the ship on a Switch port? Gosh, I hope not. I need controls that don't wreck my hands, and smoother visuals would just help do the development justice. Well, here's the thing. So, like I said, it's getting to be make or break time for Metroid Prime 4. It's make or break time for Samus Returns as well. Now, I would say that the chances of that have always been lower, much lower. But, again, if we're not getting the Switch 2 until early 2025, at the earliest, we need something to play for, on the Nintendo Switch until we get there, because now that Paper Mario's out, I actually don't know. Like, is there a single other Nintendo game that we know about that's coming out soon?
Luigi's Mansion 2 is
right.
I was about to say next month. No, that is the end of this month, actually. We are in June now.
Also, who is in charge of that? Why is Luigi's Mansion 2 not releasing in October? Like, does that not just make sense? Like, come on, give your head a shake. Anyways, which is an awesome game, by the way. But, okay, after Luigi's Mansion, like, what do we play? And so my point to bringing that up is, like, again, I've kind of harped on this before, but it feels like to me like you're going to see a lot of filler for the next couple of months here. And filler typically means ports, remakes, upgrades, blah, blah, blah. Like new entries and C-level franchises. I'd be stunned if we didn't have some Kirby game at this Direct. And now maybe Kirby is, I don't know, a sea monster or something like that. That's his new gimmick. But I think that Samus Returns could be a decent game, because it's been a while since Metroid Dread. It's been 3 years. Samus Returns, I can't imagine would be that difficult to port over. I have no idea, but like if you could port over Luigi's Mansion 2, it makes sense to me that you could port over Samus Returns. That could be an easy thing for Nintendo to do. So is it likely? No, but has the ship completely sailed? I'm not ready to say that it has yet. I don't know. I feel like I've always been a little bit more optimistic on this. I know that I'm swimming against the tide here. What do you think?
It's actually weird because I don't know if I would call myself optimistic, but I might be more optimistic than you in this scenario, because like I said last year after we reacted to the E3 Direct of that, the big question for me is Luigi's Mansion 2 just a one and done, or is it the start of a new initiative to start porting over the 3D library to modern platforms? If it is, and we don't know if that's the case yet, obviously, I'm hoping that this June Direct gives some answers on that front. But if it is a part of a new initiative to bring the 3DS library over, I think the chances go up substantially. If not, then yeah, I'd say it's probably not going to happen.
It just feels like this game should get a second shot. You know,
It deserves it.
and like this is why I mean, I love you to death, Joey, wherever you are, but this is why I hate the idea that Metroid Prime 4 should just come out for the Switch One only. It's like, you've already seen how this movie ends, and you sent out this awesome game to completely die on this console that nobody was playing anymore, even though there was 100 million of it in the world because they'd moved on to the next thing. So, like, I feel like, yeah, I feel like Samus Returns needs it, deserves it, and I don't think it would be that hard to do. And I mean, what else we could be doing? Like, what else are we gonna be playing? I don't know, but I'm not very excited for Kirby's whatever adventure. You know, I'd rather buy Samus Returns again. So I hope that it's coming to fruition. And yeah, that'd be awesome if it did, because I'd look really smart in Discord for something that did not seem that smart that many years ago. Let's keep it going here. Next couple questions are for Marshall. He says, "Hello there. I have 2 questions about Samus Returns, a game that I love to death and is in my Metroid top 4. What a good top 4. You don't hear a top 4 very often, but I love that. 1, is it safe to say that Samus Returns is a wonderful balance of Prime's art style with Other M's graphics? I don't know, to be honest, if I would classify it as that. No.
I think Samus Returns like it definitely takes some cues from Prime for sure, but I think it kind of has its own unique art style that stands on its own.
I think I agree with that. Yeah, it certainly invokes some elements of Prime. It certainly invokes some elements of 2D Metroid. I don't know if I see the Other M there. Like, Other M to me was a little more. People are gonna hate that I'm saying this, but like an anime style presentation where I think Samus Returns is anything but that. So I actually I don't see any Other M influence in this game at all, to be honest. Except for when, you know, those like beehives that have all the purple bugs in them and they swarm around you and you have to jump into water to get rid of them. It kind of looks like Other M's gravity suit when those bees are all over you. But I mean, other than that, like, I don't think so.
You could make an argument. I think that maybe, like, you know, the melee counters in those cinematics are kind of evocative of, you know, Other M's melee combat. And maybe to a degree it was. I think most of that though was just a carryover from, you know, Mercury Steam's Castlevania games, which also had, you know, these very personal up close cinematic melee finishers as well.
Yeah. Like, you know, we were talking about this on the Zelda cast the other week, where it's like, one of the big things, we were doing a definitive ranking actually on the original Legend of Zelda, and one of the big things that differentiates a lot of Zelda games is like, many Zelda games have a very distinct and unique art style to them. And I don't know that Metroid's art style is much more consistent from game to game, I think. Like obviously there's differences between the games, but they're generally pretty close to the same type of art style. So I think that maybe that's just more why you're seeing that Other M influence there, because Other M would actually be the outlier to me in terms of character designs, and maybe it's just because there's more characters in that game, but like, yeah, like I think that I don't see the Other M in here. I see the Prime, but I would agree with what you said. It's really kind of its own thing, I think.
Yeah, and literally like Samus's suit cues like literally take like the complete opposite approach that Other M did, where like Other M like really slimmed down the various suit and whatnot. It really like toned down the detail and focused on the slickness, whereas Samus Returns is just like, nope, big, bulky, we're gonna have all these moving parts, machinery, we're gonna have like these screws and drills and divots and, you know, like all this, you know, detail and like the joints and stuff like that. And it's just like it's a whole different beast, like at least from what I see. Unlike music, my eye for art is nowhere near as big, so I don't know, maybe someone who is more trained in that department can correct me on that.
My eye for both is, well, I mean, I got 2 bad eyes, so let's put it that way. Second question from Marshall here. This is almost a rhetorical question. Do you love how the Baby Metroid saves Samus's life in the ending? Who doesn't?
Yeah.
It's a great moment. And you know what? A moment that I think retroactively makes everything in the series better. Like it makes the Super Metroid better. Like it builds up that connection between Samus and the Baby Metroid, even more so. So like, it even makes Other M better because then that connection is deeper, so you really kind of feel like the despair that Samus feels after this baby has been eradicated. So yeah, and it's just an awesome, I wrote an article forever ago on OmegaMetroid.com called In Defense of Proteus Ridley, because there are some people that don't exactly love the idea of Proteus Ridley, and I get why, but like, I love the interaction with the Baby Metroid and Samus Returns. I think it's so smart, like it's so clever. Yeah, I love it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've already talked about the Proteus Ridley fight a bajillion times already, but yeah, despite my thoughts on it, yeah, like obviously the fight itself is awesome, and then yeah, like the interactions between Samus and the Baby Metroid are also like really awesome, and I genuinely love what those add to the series. I just wish it was done in a slightly different way, but that's neither here nor there.
All right, let's continue here, and our next question comes from Kajira. Could y'all imagine a Mercury Steam creating a Super Metroid remake? Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
I could see them doing it. It would probably be awesome. It is also not at the top of my list of what I would want them to make.
Yep.
But I'm sure it would be. But I'm sure it would be fantastic.
Yep, I would agree with that. I could totally see them doing it. Like we were having, I can't remember if this was in Discord. It must have been, but like we were discussing, again, like what are we going to be playing on the Switch for the next 6, 8, 9 months, whatever, until the Switch 2 comes out. Kind of seems like it's going to be some remakes, some ports, etc., etc. And so like, my personal pick would be, put Samus Returns on the Switch. My second pick after that would be like, all right, well, remake Metroid Fusion. My third pick after that would be like, and this is only if we have to have a remake, would then be do Super Metroid. And somebody said it doesn't make any sense to remake Fusion before Super, and I disagree with that. I think it's like whatever. Super is easily available everywhere that you want to play it. Doesn't really need a remake, I don't think. I think Fusion does more so, but like, yeah, I mean, like I could see Mercury Steam just, saying like, all right, like we gotta get out a game for the Nintendo Switch until the Switch 2 comes out. What's a good holdover? Remake Super Metroid. Everybody loves Super Metroid. Let's do that, and let's just jazz up the graphics and the music, and that'd probably be a really fun game. It'd probably be awesome.
And give us an option to use the original music as well, just like in Thousand Year Door and Mario RPG.
Oh, they do that. Okay, That's cool. I haven't picked up the new Paper Mario, and I don't think I'm going to, even though I really love that game. It's an incredible game. Maybe I'll get it one day if it's on sale. But I think I was telling, I just during COVID, I went on a GameCube buying spree, and I bought Paper Mario before it was like outrageously expensive. And I played it, beat it, loved it, and I was like, I don't know if I need to buy this again. So yeah, that's to answer the question. I could definitely see a world where we need a game and it's Super Metroid and Mercury Steam does it, and it's hopefully an easier game. Like, I think it would be more work than just like porting Samus Returns, which is why I'm also kind of in favor of doing that. But yeah, I could see that for sure. All right, moving on. This is from Average Retro Gamer, and they have a few questions here, or I don't know if we're going to be able to answer all of them, but we'll try our best, I guess. Number one, was the fusion suit that is in Samus Returns the fusion suit used in the prototype idea of the supposed Metroid Fusion remake pitch? I'd have to imagine so, right? Like,
maybe. I mean, I don't know. I don't work for Mercury Steam.
Yeah, and I think maybe the Average Retro Gamer is confused. Maybe they thought that we were talking to someone in Mercury Steam. I think that's what they maybe thought. So we're going to give you some disappointing answers here because we're just two dumb blokes that don't know anything. But like, I don't know. That makes sense to me, right? Like if they, because yeah, they made like a little demo of Metroid Fusion. That was the original pitch, was to remake that game. And Nintendo was like, no, let's do Samus Returns. Makes sense to me. I don't know. Probably.
Yeah, I'll have to ask my uncle who works at Nintendo later. Maybe he'll be able to give me something.
I hope so. Can you tell us when Metroid Prime 4 is coming out too?
Please, for Joey's sake, he's dying right now.
I saw my man on Twitter, and he's going off about the Metroid Prime 4 being Switch exclusive, and I was like, should I answer that? Should I get back into this and debate this? And I was like, no, I'm not doing it today. I think that the fusion suit it's particularly awesome in Samus Returns, by the way. And I think it's just because it simply has shoulder pads. Something about the fusion suit with shoulder pads, just like, to me. It's missing that in the original game. Let's go on to their second question here. Second question from Average Retro Gamer. Aside from the Chozo memories and ending, do you plan to make X float in the background of some areas? Do they? I can't say that I've noticed any. I don't think they do.
Can you repeat the question again? It was a little hard to interpret.
Aside from the Chozo memories and ending, did you plan to make X float in the background of some areas? So this is clearly, again, a question that he thinks that we're talking to Mercury Steam. It's just us. Sorry. I don't know. I think like the Easter egg of the game is like after you finish it and you see the X come out and absorb that horn node. Like I think that works a lot better. I don't know what the advantage would be to having the X kind of fly around in the background. There is some pretty cool stuff in the background too, by the way. I'm in area 2 right now. There's this like creature that's just like in the background doing its own thing, and I don't think you ever fight it. I think it's just like a regular creature, and there's a few of those in the game. So it looks really cool, but yeah, that would be, I mean, that's obviously a question for someone at Mercury Steam, but like, I don't know. I think the reveal of the X at the end is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it's perfect the way it is. And also, it wouldn't make sense to have like a bunch of X in the background because Samus isn't supposed to know. No one's supposed to know about the X parasite at this point. So yeah, I think it makes more sense to have it like, you know, after everyone's gone and fly away, then you have the X start to take over.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Let's go over to Discord now because we've got a couple of questions over there as well, and let's get kicked off with a few from Lolo_Zozo. What a great name, Zozo. That reminds me of my kitten. Okay, number one is, how do you feel about the game's art direction? Things like Samus's design, the way enemies were redesigned, the greater attention given to backgrounds, etc. This is a touchy subject, I think, with people.
I'm kind of mixed on the game's art direction. I don't know about you, but like overall, I like it. I think it's good. I think it's a massive step up from like Other M, which kind of like Other M took some unique cues with like translating some of like the literal 2D characters to like literal copies in 3D, and I think in some instances it worked, and a lot of instances it didn't. It just like the Zebesians, for instance, I think just look really goofy in that game. Yeah. And to be fair, they do in the 2D games as well, but like it fits the 2D games art style.
I think they look awesome in the 2D games, actually.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, I think it works there.
In like a way that Godzilla looks awesome, though. It's inherently a little bit goofy, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then the original enemy designs in Other M are like kind of hit and miss. But anyways, I don't know why I'm talking about Other M right now. We're talking about Samus Returns, but yeah, overall, I think he mentioned at the end of the question there. I think where this game really shines is those backgrounds, like the backgrounds in this game, and like, you know, the attention to detail in each individual room. You know, you brought up, you know, that creature in Area 2. That's, you know, it's just vibing there. It's, you know, it's not. It doesn't want to fight you. It's not like, you know, hunting other wildlife in the background. It's just, you know, it's just drinking some water in the pond, and that's it. And, you know, I love stuff like that. You even have like I think it's the intro to Area 3 where you're into the mining area, where like, you know, you'll fall on some platforms, and then like you'll see some like the crystals fall in both the foreground and the background as, you know, the platforms shift and stuff like that. I think is really cool.
I was going to suggest something to you, actually. Go for it. About what you're going to talk about here. I was going to suggest, like, I don't think anybody doesn't like Samus's design in this game. I think almost universally, like, everyone's just like, what an awesome Varia suit, gravity suit, power suit. I think so. Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously, like, especially... Man, I keep going back to Other M, especially after Other M, it feels like such a nice return to form. Like, yes, this is how Samus is supposed to look. It's not my personal favorite suit in the game, but it's definitely like it's definitely a high tier for sure. And obviously, the gravity suit looks incredible. Easily my favorite gravity suit in this series, and probably in my top 4 or 5 favorite suits in this series.
Yeah.
Even the power suit, I think the power suit in this game is actually pretty slept on. I think that's like an S tier suit for me personally. I absolutely love the way it looks in this game.
I think every suit Samus wears, even if you go to the ending when like there's the Justin Bailey Samus, the Fusion Samus, the like I think it looks awesome. Like all of those look awesome. So I don't know that you're gonna find anyone that doesn't like the way that Samus looks. Personally, I would say the same about the creatures and stuff. Like I've never heard anyone say like I think the creatures look bad. I think they look the Metroids particularly. I think look awesome. Man, they look great. Like all the cool like Chozo tech, I think looks great. The backgrounds are what I've heard a little bit of back and forth about. I personally think it looks great. Like there's like the area 4 and the crystals looks spectacular. Area 7, obviously the Chozo Laboratory looks spectacular. There's even in like sector 1 and 2, which I'm kind of playing my way through, like those are just like they're full of detail, full of life. And I think that some people don't like that because like the original game is obviously very dark, very brooding, very I don't know, very just it's very somber, and like Samus Returns adds a lot of color and detail, and I've seen some people kind of be like, I don't know if this is for me. I personally like it a lot, and this bleeds right into the next question, which is a great question. And
can I talk a little bit about this? Yeah, no worries. Well, because I talk about what I love, I guess, because I mentioned that I'm mixed on the art style, and I guess where I'm mixed on it, it's the it's not colors in general. Like obviously it's a game that's going to have color, but I don't like a lot of the color correction that's done throughout the game. There's like this kind of brownish yellowish tint that's like placed over the whole game that almost feels like a filter, and I think that aspect of it looks kind of ugly. But I mean, otherwise, you know, when it comes to like the actual models and the art design, I think it's all very strong.
Yeah, you know, I guess if I were to bring a critique about like something similar, I don't know. I see what you're saying, but to me it sticks out much more in like the fire rooms. Like there's that red like filter that's over everything. Like when you first get into any area, there's that really heavy purple filter. Could have probably done without that just because it's like it's a little bit heavy-handed sometimes. But I think I would agree with that, but it doesn't bother me as much though. Like you could definitely notice particularly like a yellowy filter on a lot of the action in like the main areas there, but it doesn't stick out to me as much as some of those other ones. And maybe that's just because like you're in that contained like space that has them. I don't know, but I love this next question. I'm a lot to unpack here. So this is again from Lolo Zozo. Do you think Samus Returns does well at being a remake? I love the game and think it's a great game, but I've always felt like it's not a quote good remake because it definitively ditches many aspects that made Metroid 2 very unique, above all the tense claustrophobic atmosphere, in favor of being more action orientated. I think there's something to that. Yeah, I think that's fair. I do. If you were to ask me, I think that AM2R is the better remake. Because it's like, and when I say better remake, I don't mean better game. I don't think that. I love them both dearly. But I think that when I play AM2R, I have a more similar vibe to the original than I do than playing Samus Returns. And I think that's fair. Like Samus Returns is incredibly hostile, incredibly dangerous, very action orientated. It was an evolution of the series in a new direction. And I think that when you're evolving the series like that, like it can be a little bit tough to be a step forward for the series while also being like a faithful remake. Like I think Samus Returns does a really, really great job of walking that line, but I could see where some people are like, this isn't exactly the remake. Again, maybe I'll rephrase that. I could see if someone was like, it's an amazing game, but a bad remake. I can see that because, like, again, a lot of the detail, the backgrounds, the color, like that wasn't clearly in the original Metroid 2. Yeah, I think it's a great question. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I could probably ramble on forever about this.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd use the term bad remake because I mean, at the end of the day, it might be, you know, it might not be my favorite way to experience Metroid 2, but like it's still a very good game that I always have fun when I come back to it. And so, like, objectively speaking, like, no, it can't be a bad remake for me, at least, because, I enjoy playing it. I might have more critiques of it than the average person, but at the end of the day, it's still a really good time. And so, yeah, I really enjoy it. I think what I will say about Metroid 2 is that I don't necessarily think remakes have to be faithful. And in fact, I think I really enjoy when remakes I do enjoy when remakes do take some creative liberties and try to do something unique, which Samus Returns absolutely does. It takes full advantage of the 3DS to, deliver an experience that is just not possible on the Game Boy by several metric tons. What I will say, though, and I would even extend this a little bit to AM2R as well, which, for those who don't know, is my second favorite Metroid title of all time. I love AM2R. But even AM2R doesn't fully capture that unique atmosphere that Metroid 2 does. And Metroid 2, in and of it would be one thing if, Metroid 2 was just another Metroid game, but Metroid 2 is such a weirdly unique game, of that 2D lineage that has such a creative take on atmosphere that's, that was created by the game's limitations, partially intentionally, partially unintentionally. And I do wish that Samus Returns, and even AM2R to a smaller extent, really took more influence of, those aspects that specifically made Metroid 2 so unique amongst all the other Metroid titles. But at the end of the day, I think it's still a great game.
I see what you're saying. I don't know if I agree. Although, like, you're not wrong either. I just don't know if, like I think what Return of Samus did, like the OG, it did that because it had to, because that was the only way that they could do that game on the Game Boy. I don't know if I would have loved Samus Returns if it was invoking that same kind of, like, small screen, very dark, very, like, to me, AM2R is like the realization of what the original intent of Return of Samus was. Whereas Samus Returns is like a different approach, a different interpretation, a different way to tell that story. And I think that that's, like, perfectly fine. Like, I totally agree. You don't have to be faithful. If you're a remake, you do not have to be faithful to the original. You could take inspiration from it, but you don't. I mean, you don't have to do exactly all the same stuff. So, yeah, I think it's a wonderful question, actually, and really, like, thought provoking in terms of, like, what does a good remake constitute, and just keeping a good remake separate from a good game, because I don't think you'd find anybody that's not going to say that Samus Returns is one of the, like, a great Metroid game. We had someone say top 4 earlier. It's in my top 4 too, actually. It's probably my 4th favorite Metroid game, right behind like the big heavy hitters, Prime, Dread, and of course Super Metroid. So let's go back to Twitter for a second, because I skipped over a question here. This is from our pal Harkyman. I'm gonna let you go first here, Doom. Is Samus Returns the most underrated entry in the series? And what is one thing this game does better than any others in the series? I have an answer for both.
I like the last part of the question. So the first part of the question, it's both yes and no. For me, on a critical level, no. I think critically the game is received about the way I think it's deserved. Sales-wise, I absolutely think it's underrated. The game absolutely should have sold more. 560,000 is absolutely ridiculous. And again, I'm someone who probably likes Samus Returns a little bit less than the average consensus, but, like, oh my gosh, again, it's still a great game, and, like, it deserved at least 1 million. It deserved so much more than it got. Something that Samus Returns does better than any other game in the series.
I've got an answer for you if you're
I'm gonna. I think this is a perfect time to throw back to our escape sequences episode, because we forgot to talk about the Diggernaut escape sequences. I know you disagree that it's an escape sequence, but I don't care. It's an escape sequence to me, and to me, I love those Ori style escape sequences where it's not a timer, it's a hazard that is right on your tail, and you have to keep moving at all times. And even Metroid Dread, doesn't really have an escape sequence quite like that, where you have this thing that is inches away from annihilating you at all times. And some people hate that Diggernaut sequence. I personally absolutely love it. It might even be my favorite part of. It might even be my favorite part of Samus Returns, is that Diggernaut chase.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the first part there, being underrated. I think generally speaking, it's a 2-horse race between this game and Corruption for being the most underrated game in the series. Although I will throw out, for everyone's consideration, I think that Nestroid is really slept on. And I know it's old and it's tough and it's blah 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 blah. Like, there's a lot of really really fun stuff that you can do in that game. But I think, yeah, I think I might agree with the fact that if Samus Returns isn't the most underrated, it's the second most for sure, behind Corruption. Those, they just seem to be a little bit uncelebrated for some reason, and maybe I'd even err on the side of Samus Returns, just because Metroid Dread came out and everybody loved Dread, and rightfully so. It's awesome, but I don't know. Maybe that'll change if Samus Returns ever showed up on the Switch. But I think I'd probably agree with that. One thing that this game does better than any other games, I feel like this game just has like a really hostile environment that the aura of like a lot of the other games doesn't match. Not even the original Return of Samus. And Return of Samus was like hostile and dark in its own way, but like this game is just like there are constantly enemies coming at you. They're tough, and you have to slowly progress and melee counter a lot. I think this game is really really good at doing that. But I think what sticks out for me, the best thing that this game does versus any other game, and I don't know quite how to word it, but like I absolutely love the ending sequence, or like the Baby Metroid is with you. It gives you a companion, which is something that no other game does. I guess you could say maybe Adam is your companion, but like Adam sucks.
Nah, he doesn't count.
I don't think he counts either. Like I thought that was so unbelievably smart when I first played Samus Returns and unlocked that ending and the Baby Metroid was with you. I was like, that is just, it's genius. Like it was so simple but effective. I love that you can continue your adventure with the Baby Metroid. I don't know quite the proper way to say that, but I think that it's just like such an awesome thing to do.
Great question. I will say this does kind of a side tangent, but I would also say Prime 2 might be underrated depending on the context you ask that in. I think within the Metroid community, not so much, because I think a lot of people in the Metroid community are really like starting to get on that game. But I think outside of the Metroid community, that game is severely underrated, in my opinion, at least.
Okay, that's fair. I wouldn't agree with that, but I could see what you're saying. I mean, the problem with Metroid is like the series has so many games that haven't sold as well as they should. You could make an argument for like, you could make an argument for Super Metroid. Maybe not, but like Super Metroid sales wise didn't sell anything close to what it should, and that was due to when it came out and what have you. But let's go back to Lolo Zozo. Last question: do you prefer this game's approach to its highest difficulty mode or Metroid Dread? So essentially, fusion difficulty versus Dread difficulty. I think there's room for both to coexist. Like I think that I would have actually been fine if Metroid Dread had Dread mode and fusion mode. I think that would have been totally fine. I think I probably prefer fusion mode, although I do like how Dread changes the way that you play the game. I just that's a little bit too much for me. Like one thing and you're toast. It's like I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that like, you know, I don't see why the two can't coexist. I will say I would prefer the fusion difficulty mode. The suits weren't tied specifically to that mode. I'd like it to just be its own little option, and you could just select what suits, and hopefully other suits as well, not just the fusion suits, would be selectable on any difficulty. Maybe the fusion suits are like an unlockable after you beat the fusion mode, and then you can use them across the other modes. But as for what the two that I prefer, oh my gosh, I freaking love Dread mode. I had so much fun back when I streamed that, and especially within boss rush, training yourself how to beat these bosses without taking hits while you're just wailing away on them with missiles and beams, and and oh my gosh, it is so satisfying to nail the game down to its core like that, to fully optimize it.
Yeah, and I hope both come back. To be honest, like I said, I think there's room for both. I'm going to combine these next two questions because I think they're kind of asking the same thing. This is from Jacob and this is from Big Griff, and I'll kind of read both here. Jacob says, what Aeon ability is your favorite, and do you think the new way that Aeon works in Metroid Dread is better than the pickup method in Samus Returns. Well, Griff has something similar. Would the Aeon abilities in Samus Returns be too overpowered with the Dread style regeneration Aeon meter? I think yes. The answer to that is yes. Like this game's Aeon abilities are much more combat focused, where Dreads are much more, I guess, movement focused, like the flash shift in particular, and then the whatever the cloaking one is. I think that it works fine, like regenerating that, because like if you didn't regenerate and you like had to go and hunt some enemies to use the flash shift again, I think that'd be a real momentum killer. And so luckily Dread doesn't do that. But like if you're constantly regenerating Aeon as your beam burst is going, your lightning armor is on, your fate shifted, like you're invincible with this hyper like beam weaponry, and everything else is moving super slowly. So like, yeah, I think you kind of have to. I think you kind of have to make it so that you don't have an easy way to accrue Aeon abilities. Because I think like the beam burst in particular, that one, like, I think if you pretty much always have it on, maybe pause for a second, wait for your gauge to refill, and then continue on your way. Whereas the way that Samus Returns does it, you have to at least engage in some enemies if you're going to replenish that, or use your melee counter, which is what the game is obviously wanting you to do. As for favorite ability, probably the beam burst. It's an awesome ability. Yeah.
It's the beam burst easily. Like, it's so cool. Like, I've always wanted to have like a machine gun like weapon in Metroid, and to me that's like the one we got for the most part. There's also like the charge shot when you're in hyper mode and corruption, but like this one, I feel like this one realizes it a lot better. I also agree that a lot of these abilities would probably be OP in Dread. Maybe you could do something kind of similar to like the Phantom Cloak, where like it recharges more slowly than like the flash shift, for example. And so it's like you got to make a decision. Do you want to be able to have your flash shift at the ready, or do you use your beam burst and have to go for like 15-20 seconds without using a flash shift? Because a lot of the bosses in Dread really rely on that, and so not having that, maybe you don't want to use the beam burst. I think that could be interesting, but I think just like layering, you'd have to tweak the abilities and like how it works. If you just ported from Samus Returns to Dread, it would not work at all.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. We kind of touched on this question earlier, but let's just touch on it really quickly again. This is from Metroid Fighter. Do you think the scan pulse revealing not only breakable blocks but the surrounding rooms on the map was a good idea, or do you think that it gave away too much? Would map stations have been the better route to take? I don't know what you mean about map stations, actually.
I think we already answered this question in the last scan pulse question, pretty much.
We did. I wanted to just reiterate our answer to Metroid Fighter. They took time to ask, so I think so.
I think in regards to the map station, because Samus Returns doesn't have a map station like traditional Metroid games, even Dread does. That's where the scan pulse comes in totally handy. Right, yeah. It fills in the map. And so I think that's what they meant. Is like, would you rather have just had a map station? And like, for me, like, I would have rather had the map station instead of using the scan pulse to fill everything out.
I agree. Yeah. Or what I would be fine with, to be honest with you, if you just like went into, and this doesn't work for every Metroid game, but like if you just go into an area and you just have the map. Like, is that the worst thing in the world? And maybe it's like you have the map. Like, in Metroid Fusion, you get some of the map, but then there's hidden areas that you can explore and whatnot too. But, like, maybe you just go into an area and you have, like, the base map. And there's still secrets and still, like, hidden passages that you don't know about. But, like, maybe we just get that. And because, like, one thing that bugs me about maps in Metroid, and this actually bugs me in every game, is, like, when you're trying to fill out a map and, like, you're in a room, for example, like the Golden Temple room, and like you crawl along the ceiling just trying to fill out all the map, and you drop down to fill out the space. It's like, come on, man, just give me the map. Like, don't make me do this silliness,
It's like no, I have to fill in every single square, and Dread's even worse about that too. Like, there's so much little. It's like, no, that's a dark blue square. I need it to be a blue square. Otherwise, I'm not satisfied. I definitely get that as well. 100% agree.
Yeah. Map stations would have been cool though. All right, Jacob is back with another question, and I think we're actually right on time here because we have two more questions. So we'll end on a high note here. Do you guys like the ending variants of Samus Returns, different suit combos over the Dread endings art for past Metroid games? Oh, good question. Me personally, I think I do. But like, I don't know if I'd consistently like that. But what I mean by that is like, it was really cool to see a 3D render of Justin Bailey Samus. Like, I thought that was cool. Or like some other classic versions of Samus as well, like the one from Super Metroid with the black crop top or whatever. That was really cool. And for that game, I would have liked to see that versus art. But like you kind of do that once, and then like if that was what you unlocked for getting 100% of Metroid Dread, that's not going to hit the same because you've already seen that in Samus Returns. Whereas Metroid Dread, like I thought it was a little bit odd to have artwork for past games. I would have rather like a secret ending or like, I don't know, something. So yeah, I thought that one was a little bit of an odd choice, but I really did like this different suits that you could see at the ending of Samus Returns, but I don't know if you could consistently do that as a reward for games.
Yeah, I'm not really counting secret endings into this because I mean Samus Returns also had a secret ending, but like I'm not really factoring in that into this. I'm like factoring in the actual Samus suit like ending screens that you get. And honestly, I don't really have a preference to either. I think they're both really cool, unique takes in their own way. Samus Returns, you typically get the 2D images, but here you get like these 3D models, and they're doing like reference poses to like all sorts of past games, which I think is awesome. I especially love that the Fusion one where Samus does the US Metroid Fusion cover art pose where she's like kneeling down with her cannon up, like so cool. I love it. And then Metroid Dread, it came out on Metroid's 30th anniversary, so getting all of these screens, celebrating the game's history, it feels like a reward in and of itself. I wish we got the Prime Trilogy screens as a reward for Dread mode when that came, but alas, I think that would have like completed the whole thing. But regardless, I still really like what they did there. So I don't really have a preference between the two. I think they're both really cool in their own way.
I think they are too, to be honest. And I'm kind of with you. Like I don't have a major preference between the two. I think they're both things that you can do once and then like you do something else the next game. Like if either one of them came back for Metroid 6, it's just kind of like okay, been there, done that, whatever. If it was like a Super Metroid remake though, and there was like some high quality artwork, like if there was like an illustration of like Samus battling the Chorizo or Dragon or whatever have you, like that would be cool. So maybe that's more my answer. Second half of this question here: which is cooler looking, the gravity suit from Samus Returns or the gravity suit from Metroid Dread? This isn't even a competition, man.
Yeah, the Samus first off, the gravity suit in Dread sucks. I'm just gonna say that right now. The Samus Returns gravity suit is one of the best in the series. Like I said earlier, it's in my top 4 or 5. This is no contest.
I actually think that the suits get progressively worse in Metroid Dread. And when I say progressively worse, like I think they all look great, but like I think that the original power suit with the blue and the white and the red, like that looks awesome. Like it and then like I don't really like the Varia suit looks fine. The gravity suit looks like I don't know. Like I if I could, I would have just stuck with like that power suit for the whole game, and I'd have been fine with that because it looks awesome. So yeah, but the gravity suit. I mean, the gravity suit in Samus Returns, man, it just looks so awesome. All the lights, all like God, it looks awesome. I don't know how else to say it.
And I'm someone who usually doesn't like, my Samus looking like, a gaming PC, but I don't know, something about the Samus Returns model, they find a way to pull it off and it works for me.
Dude, more lights is the better in this Samus Returns suit. It looks awesome. I don't know how else to say it. Last question here, this is from Big Griff. After phase 2 of the Proteus Ridley boss fight, Samus is pinned to the ground. If the Baby Metroid wasn't there to help, would Samus have been able to get out on her own? Like going into Morph Ball and laying a power bomb, I'd like to think she could get out. Samus has been through so much, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, the question is, could she have escaped? Well, that's the question, isn't it? That's the question, and I don't think we're supposed to know the answer to that. It's again, it makes it so... I just love the idea of the Baby Metroid assisting Samus, because maybe she wouldn't have escaped that confrontation without the Baby Metroid's escape. Maybe that's finally where Ridley would have just pinned her down and finished her off once and for all. Maybe she would have. I don't know. I'd like to think that I don't know. I'd like to think that it was like destiny to have that Baby Metroid there, and maybe without the Baby Metroid, maybe that doesn't happen, which would actually make it not once, not twice, as Samus says in Metroid Fusion, but thrice that Samus owes her life to the Baby Metroid. So, yeah, it's a good question, not one that I think is supposed to have an answer, and yeah, I don't know. I guess my answer, I'd like to think that. There was a reason that Samus saved that Baby Metroid, and that reason was to ensure the continued survival of Samus in the galaxy. So take that for what you will.
Pretty much in agreement with that. Like, theoretically, could have Samus escaped from that? Has she been through worse? Yes, she probably could have. But to me, it seems pretty obvious in the way the game is depicting it that the Baby Metroid is saving Samus's life there.
Yeah.
It seems pretty obvious to me, at least. And honestly, not the first time Samus has been saved in the games. Rundus saved Samus in Metroid Prime 3. That could have been an easy game over. That was pretty much all Rundus there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the
Anthony
Federation
Higgs.
Force. I was thinking Federation Force. They technically saved Samus at the end of that game.
You're right.
We don't have to talk about that though.
Anthony Higgs actually seems like I don't know, like The Last of Us saving Samus compared to what happened in Federation Force. Oh my. That's something that I wish I could forget, but unfortunately none of us can. Well, actually probably a lot of us can, because a lot of us didn't play Federation Force, but you and I unfortunately have slugged our way through it. So you're right though, Samus has been saved a lot. You know, I mean, Metroid Fusion, the Edecuns and Decoras, like,
yeah, a phenomenal example, actually. Yeah. I don't know why that didn't come to me.
You know what? Anthony Higgs was the first thing that came to my mind when I thought of people saving Samus. So, but there's a ton of different instances where Samus needs to be saved. So, yeah, I think that's just part of the fun and part of like not knowing. And I don't think you need to know. I think it's completely fine if you don't. So, there it is. That is the end of our Metroid Samus Returns Q&A. So thank you so much to everybody that submitted some questions. This is a great time. I don't know. I really like doing game-specific Q&As. You can get a little bit more nitty-gritty with them. And like I said, ask some things that you might not think of with those. So this will be back. We will do this again in the future. I had a good time with this.
I think I had a lot of fun. I've never been on a game-specific Q&A before. I think the Super Metroid one, that was you and Lilith.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Because this is only the second one I feel like that we've done, and that one was a long time ago, I feel like. So you're totally right. And yeah, we'll definitely do it again and put some more Q&As out there for everybody, and we'll pick a different game. I don't know, maybe we should just do the complement to this and do AM2R next, assuming a lot of people out there played AM2R, so we'll see. But yeah, that is going to wrap it up for us. Any final thoughts on Samus Returns just before we get on out of here?
I think I need to play this game again. It's even though I just played it 2 years ago when we did our definitive ranking episode. I think it's that time again to dive in once more. You
won't be disappointed. I'm not replaying it, but I'm knee deep in Samus Returns right now, and it is absolutely awesome. Again, it's in my top 4 Metroid games, so bring it back to top 4. So I really love this game, and for what it's worth, I really love AM2R2. And those games I feel like completely coexist to me. They're very different and very very awesome in their own unique ways. So thank you to everybody that submitted questions for us. We love doing these shows. We love having you a part of the show. So big shout out to everybody that is doing that. If you did not know, we got a Patreon. It's available over at patreon.com/spnet. We just released a new episode of the Great Metroid Area Ranking, where there was an area from Samus Returns actually that we talked about as well. So that has been put over onto the list. So that go check that out over on our Patreon show. You know, check out us wherever you get your podcasts. Go like and subscribe and recommend and rate and review. Look at that beautiful Samus Returns 3DS that Doom has. Oh my god, that's gorgeous. What a specimen. And that 3DS is good too. So yeah, go check us out wherever you get your podcast. Like, subscribe, recommend, rate, and review. You got a Metroid fan in your life? Tell them tell them about this podcast. We're doing it weekly. We're the only We're the only Metroid podcast doing it weekly, so let them know about Omega Metroid. And check out OmegaMetroid.com as well. We got that new guide that is up on the website as well, so if you're hankering to play Metroid Prime, it's a great time. You can follow Doom's guide and have a lot of fun with that. And last and certainly not least is to check us out over on social. We are at Omega Metroid Pod, at Spiteri316, at Doominal Cross. That, my friends, is going to do it for us. So, until next week, everybody, take care.